NIL changes, with teams going to different conferences, transfer portal of NIL, just a lot happening at the same time.
A lot.
Your thoughts on that, Jesse?
Yeah. Once again, I mean, no real thoughts on the state of college football. No question. There's been, it's evolving. A lot of changes, are happening. I mean, the one I can't figure out is why the players aren't sharing in the revenue. Why that change hasn't occurred. People come to watch the players. They really don't come to watch the coaches. They don't come watch the administrators. They come to watch the players. And in a world where the revenue is ever growing, the student athletes being able to participate in that ever growing revenue, who could argue against that? And when is that going to change? When is everybody going to start using their voice to say, hey, this is wrong. This isn't right. I mean, there's guys that are out here. I mean, they're not even getting paid minimum wage. And I'm not talking about just football players. I'm talking about all student athletes that need to participate. The talent, needs to participate in the ever-growing share of the revenue. I'd like to see that change. We've seen a whole conference go into a portal. If that can open, if those kind of things can happen overnight, things that we saw this year, I mean, they just happen. Then, and I don't know how the sausage gets made completely, but there's a lot of smart people that know a lot about revenue sharing, know a lot about how those algorithms and economics work, and the real issue is there's no voice for the players, and the organizations, conferences, universities, NCAA, they're well represented. They have legal firepower at every angle, and the student athletes they don't have a voice. They're not represented in any way, and that needs to change too. But like I said, if stuff can happen this quick, like we've seen this year, then I'm hopeful that that there's a wrong that can be righted quickly as well.
On that note, because there isn't revenue sharing, all the schools have had to use this, NIL, and then there's NIL, people using it as paper play or basically like that. Every program's had to navigate in a certain way. I'm curious how you feel with how Michigan has navigated NIL has contributed to you maintaining a good culture in the locker room, even though there is money floating around.
Yeah, and people do say that. I mean, they say NIL and that's cool, but guys are working for that. I mean, they're working for that. I mean, they're in a lot of ways. I mean, you got to be a pitchman. You got to go do something, but they're really already earning it. With what they're doing on the field. I mean, there used to be a saying. Old coaches. I remember my dad's used it. My brothers used it. Hey, we're all robbing the same train here. Coaches, administrators, media, television stations, conferences, NCAA. Yeah, and the ones that are really robbing the train, the ones that could really get hurt, or are getting a very small piece. So yeah, that needs to change too. That needs to change. And it's one thing for somebody to say, well, they're getting NIL, but they're not. I mean, the billions that are being generated, they're not getting much of, very small percentage.
We need to take a break real quick.
They're getting the same amount as I got in the 80s. You're getting a scholarship, room, board, books, and tuition. So it's like, come on, man, let's do the right thing here. And who is that voice? I don't know that. Who's the voice for the student athletes? But you got the organizations, that are really fighting for their for fighting for their share and their piece, and it's time to share. I mean, I would say this. I mean, I'll say it this way: anybody that's profiting off of the student athletes right now, myself included, coaches, somewhere between 5 and 10%. Take 5 to 10% less. That'd be go for any administrator, any coach, any conference, any university, NCAA. 5 to 10% less, and then maybe a 10% tax from the television station more into one pot for the student athletes. Maybe that's a start. A way, but some conversation here on how to get it done, because I don't know if people know this, but I've been told maybe 17% it's going up. The TV contracts are going up another 17% next year. So ever growing, ever increasing revenue that'd be right for the student athletes, not just football, all student athletes to share in.